Bang. All right. Welcome, everybody. And hello to everyone in Zoom land as well. We're broadcasting live on Zoom right now. Thanks for joining us. This is another exciting edition of the Truckee Airport Fly Safe Seminar Series. I am your host, as Court mentioned, David Van Quest. I'm the outreach coordinator for this fine airport. Also a FAA safety team representative. So if you've ever got any questions about doing the WINGS program, what is the WINGS program, etc., feel free to give me a shout. So this is, as I mentioned, the Fly Safe program, where Truckee Airport is trying to help promote the continuous education of the local flying community by offering monthly safety seminars, flight clinics, etc. An airport is pretty much responsible, as far as safety goes, for putting pavement on the ground, making sure it's got markings on it according to the FAA standards. That's about it. So Truckee Airport is trying to offer this program up to everyone that flies here, so that there's also additional safety factor for folks in the sky and on the ground as well. So thank you for coming out. If you've been to a few of these, we really appreciate that. So airport updates. Let's see what we got. So first, from the tower, tower would like you to know that this came out of our last month's safety seminar about runway safety action team, that if you're taxiing around and you're taking the runway, please make sure you are on the tower frequency and not on ground. Occasionally this has happened, and if you're already flying and you're hearing someone, you might hear tower talking, but you're not hearing the other pilot, and they've already taken off, because sometimes tower talks on both channels at the same time. So make sure you switch from ground to tower. Obviously, same goes when tower is closed. Make sure you're on the CTAP, not on Unicom. Okay, we've had this before where there were two aircraft coming inbound at the same time. One was talking on Unicom, the other was talking on CTAP. It was evening. They're opposite sides of the runway coming in, and to make things more confusing, one of them activated the pilot control lighting. And right around the same time, the other pilot, also on the wrong frequency, tried doing it as well. And that pilot saw that the lights came on, so he's like, great, everything's working just fine. They ended up landing on opposite ends of the runway at the same time, and it was the pilot coming in on 1-1 who was on the right frequency the whole time, saw it last minute, and then went around. But the guy that was landing on Unicom never even knew that he made that mistake and taxied back to the hangar. Both local Truckee pilots, so please be on tower, not ground, not Unicom. Also about tower is that currently they're on operating hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's going to change October 1st, where they'll be closing at 6 p.m. So they fluctuate throughout the season of their hours. If you're looking for more opportunities to get WINGS credit or just come to Truckee Airport to learn, on Saturday, September 27th, the Civil Air Patrol is going to be in this room hosting an event they're calling For Flight Academics. That's already advertised on FAA WINGS network. So it's going to be from 9 a.m. to about noon. All you need to know about using For Flight, if you're a little rusty or you want to learn a little bit more about For Flight. Our friends at the Urington Airport are hosting their annual fly-in event and air fair, I think it's called, Saturday, October 4th. They're selling 100 low-lead fuel for $3.99 a gallon, and they're having a pancake breakfast. So go fly into Urington, get yourself some pancakes. I think you help with Rotary Club and Airport. So check it out. First come, first serve, limited supply. And if you're flying east at 7 o'clock in the morning, you're staring right into the sun. So be careful crossing over those mountains. The Truckee Airport gets around. We're going to be downtown Truckee tomorrow at the community block party. So if anyone's been to Truckee Thursday, this is the first year I think they're doing this thing called the community block party, where it's similar to Truckee Thursday. It's going to be in that same space. They're not closing the road, but a bunch of local districts and nonprofits, I think, are going to be there. We'll have a booth there. Stop on by there. Also, if you still can't get enough Truckee Airport out in the field, we're also hosting a meeting for the community September 26th to talk about the noise of the airport and how we help manage it. That is Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Sort of open house style. Come and go as you please and learn about what's going on here with noise. A few of us will be there that night, but there you go. It's going to be at the Riverview Sports Park just off the end of the runway, so we'll be hearing some airplane noise. Compliment. Speaking of additional meetings, our next Fly Safe seminar is going to be Saturday, October 30th. And it's going to be in a new location. It's not going to be here because we're talking about personal aircraft maintenance. So it's going to be in hangar Alpha 9. It's like the closest hangar you can get to from the terminal building. We'll put out some big lighted X's, hopefully, to help guide you to it. But that is Saturday, October 30th. That's Thursday. Thank you. That's Doug Lee, actually. Doug is going to be hosting that event. That's why he knows it. October 30th is correct. The day of the week, who knows what that is, but be there for that 5:30, just like it is here. Thanks, Doug, by the way. Doug and his partner Bjorn are going to be putting it on. So, what else? October 15th, it's potential that the entire airport is going to be closed. We're doing some crack filling at the intersection of both runways. So, we're going to have to close both runways for that. So, if that is indeed a go, we're going to put out a NOTAM about a week ahead of time. So make sure you check NOTAMs and don't try to fly in here on the 15th. And if anyone ever uses our flight simulator, that thing's been down for some maintenance. The rudder pedals were doing something weird, but I'm told that's supposed to be back up. Hopefully, I just shipped them off. They just fixed them. They just told me they shipped them back, arriving tomorrow, and then I'll go plug them back in. So, hopefully it's back up this weekend for those that use the flight simulator. If you don't know, we have a flight simulator that's FAA certified. You can log instrument time in it. You can do a couple hours of private pilot stuff. We offer it up if you live within the boundaries of the Truckee Airport District for free. That's a free flight simulator for those in the Truckee-Town Airport District boundaries. So if you want to use that sometime, look me up or call someone here and I'll get you in touch with how you get access to that simulator. So that's it for airport updates. Oh, let's do a raffle. It's a raffle thing.
Well, maybe doing the raffle ready in case you don't know, I mentioned it last month, but Larry Finney is our new safety security outreach coordinator. You probably need to talk to him on really time to no longer manage the tower. He over to the dark side of the airport. So we're super lucky to have him. Always feel free to reach out, talk to Larry. He's been aircraft control for 36 years. There's nothing he doesn't understand about it. And he's also a distributed pilot. So, Larry and Holland.
Larry's secret weapon is he is a former C-130 flight engineer.
Yeah,
he's a damn smart.
All right, now that moment you've all been waiting for, the raffle. Get your tickets out. Raffle prize number 1 is a brand new Truckee-Town Airport water bottle. All right, this is going to 576-314. Damn, you got the water bottle. 576-314. Really? Nobody's there you go. That's what I'm big water bottle in it. All right, next up, this one came out of the archives. This is a Truckee-Town Airport hat, trucker style that says fly on. Name on it. Cody? Coach? Yep. All right, let's now the archives. It's the only one. It's a high flag quiet. Oh, 80s and we're throwing a hands. This one's going to 576-332. Yes. Yeah, it's gonna look really good on you. All right, this is a package of Chicago Airport stickers. Pretty cool stuff. This one, going to, he also put his name on it. Big winner from the past, even Ron Kaiser. On the sticker. Yeah. All right. There you go. All right. Well, it's just around the corner. This is the Truckee Tower Airport Fly Safe hoodie. You can't buy these in stores. Pretty. Yeah, how about 576 317? There you are. All right, I guess this will be the grand prize of the night. This is the Truckee Tower Airport Fly Safe 5 panel in blue. Here's one down too. So I'm going 5, 7, 6, 3, 2, 1. There you go, all the way into the back. Clap it up for the grand prize winner. Out there. Yeah, that was nice. And for those on Zoom, we used to try to do a Zoom raffle, but no one ever came to pick up their prizes. So we're not getting anything tonight. All right, so much for that. Shut this down here. Let's get to the real reason you're here tonight, aside from the prizes and Wings credit. Backcountry flying. This seems to me like kind of the ultimate reason someone would fly. You know, you can get out, go get lost. You don't have to like follow HEC instructions or stay on an instrument procedure or something like that. Admittedly, I've never flown in backcountry, but I'm curious. As a backcountry snowboarder, I know that you don't just get your gear and just start hiking without knowing anything about where you're going. There's a lot more to it, knowing what to bring, who to bring, and the risks of the day. So without further ado, I feel like a lot of that might cross over to aviation. Please help me welcome your headliner for the night, Mr. Juan Browne.
Okay, very good. All right, backcountry flying. There's been an explosion in the popularity of backcountry flying, primarily due to internet influencers, some good influencers, some not so good influencers. And so you're seeing it plastered all over the internet. And it is every bit as much fun as it looks like as it is on the internet. We're going to cover a couple of case studies of some accidents and go over some of the realities of backcountry flying. My name's Juan Browne. I run the Blanco Lirio YouTube channel. Real quick bio. Do you need the bio? You know?
Yes.
Okay. 5 seconds. Here we go. I started out living very close to the airport, close enough to ride my bicycle. So I was an airport kid. My dad was an aeronautical engineer. Mom, a author, writer. Christmas tree farm, Ford pruning Christmas trees as an indentured servant. I was right below the downwind for Nevada County Airport. Fires would get going, air tankers would start flying. 1960s, 1970s, it was like World War II all over again. B-17s, PBYs, TBMs, all flying over the ranch going. So that we were up at the airport all the time. Started washing airplanes, pumping gas. Bought my first airplane when I was 15, sold it at 16, licensed at 17, wrecked it by the time I was 19. And with that density altitude episode right here at Frank Nervino's Nervino Airfield in Bedford, California. Struggled to get my ratings civilian wise, and the old tanker pilots said, go cut your hair, join ROTC. I did, join the Air Force, pilot training, 8904 Williams, it's 1989. They said, the Air Force guy said, you can talk and fly at the same time. I want to be a fighter pilot, man. We got a job for you. T-37 instructor pilot. So that became a first assignment instructor pilot, the T-37, did a prisoner swap to Mather Air Force Base, where we taught navigators. And I got to rip up and down the low levels, 500-foot low levels. My hometown in the Sierra Nevada was in the T-37 jet formation with all my buddies, and it was the best job in the world. Did that for 3 years. Then I said, I'm ready for that fighter now. And they said, get your first available choice, a C-141 to Travis Air Force Base just down the street. So unheard of Northern California tour for the active duty Air Force. Flew all around the world in the C-141. But remember that big giant 4-engine transport airplane. And then got out of active duty, got turned down twice by United Airlines, and went back to work as an A&P mechanic. That was the first thing I did out of high school, was got my A&P license. I cannot stress that enough. It's one of the best career moves I ever made in my life. So I fell back on that, went groveling up to the Nevada Air National Guard with 0 C-130 time. They were just transitioning from the RF-4s, a bunch of ticked off F-4 pilots, and they picked me up, John Perrell, and he was looking for an A&P to get the flying club going again. So, boy, they really saved me from starvation there. C-130, Air National Guard out of Nevada, and then finally got on with American Airlines in 1999, and I'm about to wrap up 26 years now. I've been at American Airlines, finishing up now on the 777. I'm a career FO because of the lost decade. That's another long story. On the 777, flying primarily from LA to Sydney, Australia. The Oroville spillway busted in 2017. I took my little GoPro camera I was using filming fun stuff for motorcycle adventures, posting it on YouTube for fun. Flew over the broken spillway at Oroville, and that story just blew up. That video blew up, and that turned into a 2-year project for me, covering the Oroville spillway disaster, recovery, and rebuild. Amazing engineering feat of that rebuild, and that put this thing called YouTube channel for me on the map. Blanco Liria. Blanco Liria, where the hell does that come from? My wife, my Jenny, she's from Spain. And so she makes up these silly names in the middle of the night. And I started posting on her channel because I figured I had to be anonymous from work at the airlines. And then it just took off. All of a sudden the channel took off, and it was too late to change it. I didn't know how to change it. And it's a thing now. Now it's turned out wonderful because nobody has a weird name like Blanco Lirio, and nobody could pronounce it. But if you start typing it in, the channel is the first thing that comes up on your search. So it worked. And that, as people got interested in the flying of the Luscombe, and then the airplane accident would happen, they start asking questions. And so I reluctantly backdoored into the niche of studying aircraft accidents and reporting on them on YouTube. Because I knew if I were going to go and do that, first, I didn't know if the airlines were going to go for it. Because I know I'd be covering stuff from my own airline. And I knew I would have to be exactly 100% accurate as best I can, as much of the time as I can, or I'd just be laughed off the stage. So by just sticking to the facts, as we know them, the formula has worked. And it's now turned into a full-time job for me. And it's effectively replaced my airline income from my work on YouTube and with the help of Patreon. So that's where we are today, all caught up. Now, it's pretty rare that I ever get somebody that I featured on the channel to get to talk to. And tonight we have Shobit, right? Come on up, Shobit. So Shobit had an engine failure. Tell us a little bit about your story and a very successful forced landing.
So this was last year on August 4th. 2 weeks after I got my private pilot license, and 1 week after I bought my first airplane.
Was this your airplane or a rent?
This is my
Who sold you that?
not naming names. It was a Reno airplane. But so in the week that after buying the airplane, I did a bunch of training, and I think I flew 20 or 25 hours with different CFIs in that week. And the day before the accident, I did a mock check, right, as well, from someone who's actually now a DP. So he passed me on it. So pilot skills were there. But that morning was my first solo flight in that airplane, and my plan was to fly down to the Bay Area, pick up a friend, and go to Monterey Bay, Monterey to spend the day there. But it was, summer afternoon, 11 o'clock in the morning that I was leaving from here. It was really hot. So I figured, instead of taking full tanks, I'll take like half tanks or whatever I had and fill up in Sacramento at McClellan Field. So the flight from here to McClellan was uneventful. Everything was smooth. All the engine and gauges and everything was good. I filled up in McClellan, did a run up and took off. And about 30 seconds into the takeoff, my engine failed and complete. So complete loss of power. So I'd flown to McClellan in the week prior as well with one of my instructors. So I kind of knew where the airport was, what my departure briefing was going to be. I knew that there was a golf course just south of the airport. That was a good landing spot. I think on your channel, I'd seen some accident videos as well from McClellan, where people had crashed just north of the airport and stuff. So I kind of had a lay of the land. But anyway, I took off runway 16 southbound when the engine failed at about 500 feet MSF, which is about 400 feet above ground. And immediately I was actually talking to ATC when the engine quit and went quiet. The traveler had given me to the controller. So I didn't even say anything to them. I just switched back to power and told them I declared my mayday, coming back to the airport, clock power, and then started a 180-degree turn because everything in front of me was just concrete. I didn't really see any roads that were viable to land on.
Houses and streets and wires, right?
Just
Yeah.
just no greens, no place to land. So all through your training, they teach you less than 1,000 feet, land somewhere in front of you. You may not have that option sometimes. So in your departure briefing, you should kind of know maybe turning back is a better option, which is what I ended up doing. I had to keep my speed up in my 180 as well. So I kept the speed up, I think, faster than my best flight, just to make sure I wasn't gonna stall the airplane. And then as I was talking to Tower said, okay, clear to land runway, whatever, 16 plus 18, 32, whatever. So it became clear pretty quickly though that I wasn't gonna make the runway. So I said, I don't think I'm gonna get, because I was at this point laterally displaced from the runway. Like I'd done a 180, so I was like on this side of the airport. So I told them I might make it to the taxiway. They said clear to land on the taxiway. But then, 5 seconds later, I was like dropping like a rock. So this was a Piper Arrow, a Piper Turbo Arrow, with the Hershey bar wings. With the dihedral wings, I think, not the Hershey bar. So it still glides better than the Hershey bar wings, but arrows fall like that. So anyway,
A fixed gear, right?
No, it was retractor.
Did you lower the gear?
So I got very lucky. It was all things considered, I got lucky. So I had disabled auto gear thing.
You know what he's talking about? These stupid Pipers have this thing where the manifold pressure goes below a certain setting. The freaking landing gear, the insurance company will automatically drop on you. And so that's the last thing you need in a situation like this.
So in the week prior, when I was training with my instructor, this is one of the things you practice at high density altitude is to disable that on takeoff. And as soon as you get 1,000 feet above, to enable that feature. So mine was disabled when I'd taken off from the plane. Because again, it was like 32 degrees centigrade that day, 100 degrees. Okay.
So that was a conscious decision on your part for that departure. It's not like you forgot from the previous.
No, so when I took off from Reno, I disabled it in flight, enabled it again, took off from Reno, disabled it. So that saved my butt for sure, because all that drag would have brought the plane down much quicker than it did. So I turned back to the airport, figured out I was going to make the runway. So I told them, I see a golf course in front of me, I'm going to put it down over there. Aligned myself with one of the fairways there, which you can kind of call it a fairway, but it's very wooded and there's a building at the end of it. So it's more like a practice green rather than a real fairway. As I was descending over that, I saw people and kids and golf carts. So I had to stretch my glide a bunch. So I couldn't put it down at the start of the fairway. I kind of had to go beyond those people. And from the point that I touched down, I think I had about 200 or 300 feet until the plane came to rest against the building. So I touched down, my left wing hit a concrete bench. So I got flipped 90 degrees. and I slid sideways into a building, which was perfect because the wing took all the impact. So,
And then was that left wing tank ruptured and leaking? One of the tanks.
the right wing came off the airplane. So it came off the airplane. The left wing, where the concrete thing hit, yes, it ruptured also and was leaking.
But no
But no fire.
Dang it, I should have pulled up the video. There's a wonderful video of it that somebody shot. Have you seen the video? So he sachets, there's a tree there, and he comes sashaying around this tree about 2 feet off the ground, and it just lines it up with this perfect and flew it all the way into it, that touchdown spot
So
there.
that's what I was trying to do. As I was coming down on the fairway, I could see in front of me. I could see the tree over there. I couldn't see what was beyond it. In front of me was a building, and on the right side was also another building. In the building on the right side, I could see a lot of movement, like golf carts and people, a bunch of people. And that was their rental place of the golf cart. So I knew that I wasn't gonna go towards the right there. My plan actually was to kind of, I was going about 80, 90 miles an hour at touchdown. So I was fast enough that I was afraid of hitting that building in front of me. So what I would have done is, as soon as I got down enough, I would have ballooned it and gone to the left between that tree and that building. When I got low enough, I actually saw there was a parking lot there and even more people. So there, okay, that's not happening. But anyway, in my mind, what I was gonna do is, bring it in below the tree and then just balloon it.
And when did you end up dumping the gear, right?
When I decided I was gonna go to the golf course. So when it was clear that I wasn't gonna make the report, I needed to slow down.
Yeah, okay,
So I
good.
put all my flaps down and gear down, and I kind of did sort of an elevator kind of thing, where I pulled back on the yoke all the way until 70 knots, stalled,
Brilliant.
went down, stalled, like try to control the airspeed as much as possible by just having maximum drag.
Good, because now your landing spot's pretty short, and you need to get down to it.
300.
Wow, brilliant.
That's
Good
what we
job,
did.
man.
And then, as I was sliding sideways on it, on the pavement, my landing gear got ripped out also, which was good actually, because it slowed me down pretty quickly. And there was a little bit of whiplash, like, I got yanked to the right, and then 10 seconds or 15 seconds later, or whatever, like a bunch of people came out, they were like, get out, get out, get out. So I, oh shit, got out of the airplane. Luckily, the plane actually didn't even really hit the building. The right thing hit the bleachers that were sitting next to the building, and the bleachers got crushed. But that was sort of a crumple zone. And then the plane came to rest against a concrete trash can. So the building only really had like scuff marks at the end of it. Which is good, but they're still claiming a bunch of money from the insurance policy.
For you.
Yeah.
Did they ever determine why your engine went out?
So NTSB has the plane, and they haven't gotten back to us with an answer yet. They ruled out pilot error after, I think, a month or two after basically taking my statement and then looking at the plane. But the canopy was pretty much intact. So I don't know, like they must know what happened. From my perspective, I didn't switch tanks. I did turn on fuel pump. So, but considering it wasn't the first flight of the day, I'd flown from here to McClellan. This was the second flight of the day. I don't think, like, it's really hard to say. It could have been vapor lock, could have been a catastrophic failure inside the engine, crankshaft failing or turbo failing or one of those things. But the prop stopped spinning.
So it just wound down, but it stopped spinning?
It stopped spinning.
Oh, like it's seized up, like it's stuck.
I don't remember seeing the prop, like even when my ladder was going.
Got something going on inside that engine.
Yeah.
Very good. Excellent job flying it all into the track. That's the way to do it. Thanks, Shelby.
Well, that, one thing, I didn't know you were gonna share this great story. The night before your event, the Fly Safe seminar was on the Impossible Turn. We actually talked about these little golf courses. It's a really cool app called TLR, that looks about right. Do it on your iPhone. A really good conversation on all the factors of the Impossible Turn. You can be able to a lot of them. So I thought it was fascinating because Jeff Browne, also a super pilot, retired, talked about the Impossible Turn, everything, and a bunch of stuff. You did it right. So good on you.
Thank you. Speed up. Yeah.
The funny thing is, I actually failed my flight portion of my private pilot exam a couple weeks before on one thing, which was engine ups. I feel that I'd actually gone and done like 20 engine hours over that week with my instructor. Just seeing how to manage glide using, just flat. It wasn't a 172, so I didn't have gear, but got a pretty good sense of like landing on the dot, like commercial standards because of that failure. So a blessing in disguise.
Good job. Wow, amazing story. He gets a free t-shirt. Let's see. Another administrative thing here. How many of you used to go to the Reno air races at Reno? Anybody go to Roswell this year? Anybody? Okay, I was there helping announcing. A quick Roswell air race update. The race course at Roswell, everybody seems to be agreeing, is much better than the race course that we had at Reno. It's a nice, beautiful, level course and a symmetrical race course. You can see the aircraft clearly from the grandstands at all points on the race course. There's no mountains in the background to hide the aircraft behind. So the race course is, everybody loves the race course. The town is fantastically welcoming. It was so much fun to roll into a town where they really welcomed us. There's a lot of stuff to do in the town. What we need to do there is add an additional runway, an emergency runway, in order to get the rest of the class to come out there to race. The Unlimiteds and the sports want to see a second runway for forced landings out there on the backside of the course. So that's the big showstopper that hopefully, and the city of Roswell is just pulling out the stops and pouring millions into this thing. And we'll probably get a runway by next year and hopefully get the rest of the classes. The billeting there, the lodging is still limited. They've got a lot of hotels there if you get them early, but they are limited. And the RV parking, there's plenty of RV parking and airplane parking. And the setup for all the concessions in the pits is a lot easier and better than Reno because it's not spread from east to west for 2 miles. It's in a nice big square right behind the grandstands. So financially, it's going to be touch and go. I don't know how they're going to pull it off, but if they could get the rest of the classes there and if we can get the attendance up, it's still a pain in the ass to get to Roswell. It's way out there. There's only 2 airline flights, at least when they drop you off right there at the air races. There is Uber there. There is some lodging, but they need more. So hence the Roswell air race update. All right. Backcountry flying as when the NTSB, whenever you see an accident, the NTSB gets on the media there, and what do they always say? They're going to review the 3 main factors: the pilot, the airplane, and the environment. And when I review these accidents, it often seems like one of the underlying themes is somewhere in one of those 3 things, there was a lack of respect for the environment. The backcountry environment is terrifyingly unforgiving, as if aviation wasn't unforgiving enough. A lack of respect for the limitations of the aircraft that you're taking into the backcountry. And then for the pilot, a lack of respect of your own personal limitations. Instead, you don't want to just go wandering into the backcountry yourself. You've got to get the training. It's all about the training. So let's ask about you guys. How many fairly new pilots do we got? Let's say 500 hours or less. 500 hours or less, great. And then how many with like 2,000 hours or so? 2,000, and then more than 2,000? All right, great. And then how many folks are already enjoying flying in the backcountry? All right, handful of folks there. Good. Excellent. Okay, and so a lot of you have yet to go and enjoy it or try it out. It took me years to really get comfortable with even venturing out to the backcountry myself, let alone have the time and the money and the airplane to go do it. So let's start off with a couple of things. Before you can go out in the backcountry, you got to get the training for it. And the training for that backcountry is going to be, one thing is, I cannot take you out into the backcountry if you cannot land on a spot, if you cannot do a spot landing. So I highly encourage you to get out there and practice your spot landings. And we have little friendly competitions at the local airport with the kids there, maybe a couple times a year, where we mark out a landing spot and we have a spot landing contest. And we don't require it to be power on or power off, but we do require that you land on or beyond the line. And then we measure up to see how close you get to line. We're looking for within 100 feet of the line. That's what we want. Now, in order to achieve that spot landing, we want to see a stabilized approach. When people think stabilized approaches, they're thinking airline stuff, 1,000 feet AGL, on speed, on glide slope, just straight on in. Not necessarily so. A power off 180 in a Piper Cub can be a stabilized approach. It's a stabilized energy state to get you down to that spot on that spot landing. That's what we want to see, your ability to fly a stabilized approach to that spot. The other thing you're going to need to be able to do is fly comfortably behind the power curve. Fly comfortably slow flying. Your slow flight capability, stalls and falls, you got to be practicing stalls and falls all the time and getting very comfortable flying behind the power curve. And I would recommend also some spin training and spin prevent training as well. That should all be, you should all be comfortably familiar with those forms of flight. The environment, let me take a couple more shots at that. The big foot stomper for me in the environment, you want to get out there and get on the ground before 12 noon. Maybe even start at 11 a.m. First starting to get out there. Get on the ground early. Do not go flying after that in the backcountry. The winds pick up in the mountains, and the turbulence and the thermal activity in these light aircraft is just way too uncomfortable and way too destabilizing of your approaches, and much too much of a challenge down in these steep mountain canyons. So get down early in the mornings. So plan your trip accordingly. That may mean going to Boise or Nampa, Idaho, and staying there for the night, and then launching out to the backcountry, which is only an hour away from there, first thing in the morning. And then, of course, you're going to have to plan to have enough fuel to knock around in the backcountry without having to come out and go get more fuel. But you don't want to take a full load of fuel. That's the other thing I got to say about your aircraft and your limitations. And I learned this from adventure biking, dirt biking, backcountry skiing, probably the same thing, backpacking. Travel light. Travel as light as possible. Bring your lightweight gear initially. After you've gotten your training, go solo. Don't take your whole family out there. Don't load up your airplane with stuff. Just go solo. And I bring about the same gear as I use on my dirt bike trips. The 17 pounds of lightweight tent and sleeping bag and something warm to wear. You're freezing your tail off at Johnson Creek in the morning in the mountains, sleeping under your wing. Spot tracker, some kind of way, a personal locator beacon. You'll see everybody bringing one of those, a basic survival kit. But unlike land-based backcountry, well, I mean, you're going to end up landing at a place that's, there's going to be other people, there's going to be facilities, there's going to be some help at the airfield you're going to. It's that forced landing out. That's when you're going to be in a truly rugged survival situation. Let's start off with this right here, give you an idea of the terrain. Okay, first let's go here. IT shuttle. You ready for that? Yeah, go for the All right. There is some wonderful backcountry lying right out of here, just east out of here. Go to the desert, hook up with Kevin Quinn and the guy right here at the float plane, Kevin Sloan. They know all the great backcountry strips. Okay. Right here locally to Truckee, and you've probably seen the videos where they're landing on top of the mountain above Lake Tahoe itself. Now that's through the off-road backcountry flying. The kind of backcountry flying I'm talking about is just going to chartered airports in Idaho. On the chart, it looks appealing here on the chart. Boise is right there, and these beginner backcountry trips are located right here in the mountains of Idaho. But look at the terrain, the tops of that terrain, 9,000, 8,988, Johnson Creek Airport. I call it 5,000 feet. But a 9,000-foot mountain is right next to it. So we're talking way deep down in the river canyons are these cool backcountry airstrips. So we're talking canyon flying. This is where you want to get your training. You want to get training, you get used to this canyon flying because you're operating way deep down in a canyon that you've never been before. You may not even see the horizon. When you're doing your 180 turns in this canyon, you'll be dropping down in there and you won't have a normal horizon that you're looking at all. It's just surrounded by rocks. So here's a little time lapse in 206. If it works. Come on. Okay, typical flight. We're going from Big Creek just over to Johnson Creek. So blast off out of Big Creek, boom, you're right in the river canyon. I'm going north. I don't want to go north. I gotta go south. So I gotta climb down the canyon, stay to the right, like a freeway. Find a wide spot in the canyon, turn around. Okay, now I'm going the way I want to be going to Johnson Creek. And I'm gonna end up over, okay, there's the airport we just took off from. And we're gonna continue to fly up into continuously rising terrain till we get to the highest bit of the terrain. The neat thing is, it all tops off at about 9,000 feet. So get about 9,000 feet, you're pretty much clear of it. Then you're gonna get into the next drainage, hopefully the correct drainage. Before flight, this was very dangerous. Because you end up going up the wrong drainage and box yourself in. Now we got the correct drainage over Yellow Pine. There's the airport we're going to, Johnson Creek. We just passed it on the left. Fire off down the canyon. We got to box our way down the canyon. We got to hug up against these trees right here and keep it slowed down. Then we're going to dive down off this right into here, down into the canyon. Okay, there's the airport and land, and it's a nice, big, beautiful, long grass strip. And that's Johnson Creek. That is your beginner, basic rookie airport in Idaho. Okay, that was in my 206G in early model 78, 206. All kinds of airplanes fly into Johnson Creek. I think I've seen a Cirrus in there, but I wouldn't recommend it. See if I can get this real. Okay, here comes City Boy. Now this, respect for the train, respect for the airplane. He's got the right airplane, but this was according to folks that knew this pilot, this was the kind of pilot that wouldn't listen to nobody. Maybe an engineer type, I'm not sure, but he just wouldn't listen to nobody. And he thought all this kind of operations, the way he was operating was just fine. This is in June, maybe a year ago, his arrival in Johnson Creek. By August, he came back and repeated this performance. And in the August performance, with the temperature higher, he did not survive. This is what happened back in June. And he repeated the same mistake 3 months later. So he's in a 206H, which is the late model 206. I don't personally consider that a 206. I consider that a Cirrus with to a real 206. But if flown up correctly, the H model 206 can get in and out of just about any place that the early model 206 can. Okay. So you work, back up here a second. You work your way down that canyon. Yeah, you're gonna gain some airspeed when you make that Hayaka turn down the canyon, but you're gonna get down to a point where you're gonna stabilize that approach. Get it down there and get on speed and get on flight path for your arrival. Now here he is unstabilized, too fast. And this is a huge 2,000+ long airstrip, too fast. He's gonna try and just shove it on there. Boing, one, boing, two. What's that called? Yeah, porpoise or PIO. Okay, he's gonna go around, but he's down there at the end of the runway. And there's the root house right there. They don't want you flying around that, so he's got a sashay around that big tree to the left. And now he's got a sashay to the right, and he's going up into rising terrain. But the power of that 206 is holding him up there, and I think there's 2 people plus all this gear. And he's going into rising terrain. And he gets turned around, and he comes back and lands, and hardly says anything about it. Everybody else is just shocked at his performance, but to him, it didn't seem like no big deal. Now, back in August, he repeats this, and he packs it into that hillside, right just beyond where he's at there. Stalls it in, crashes and burns. Stabilized approach, gotta be stabilized. In a lot of these backcountry airports, we learned when we're baby pilots that we can always go around. Well, in nice big airports, you can always go around, but you cannot. Go around is not always an option in the backcountry. And there are quite frequently, and I'll show you an example, places where go around is absolutely not an option. So you have to be stabilized on speed. And you have to make a decision point of last decision point to make the decision to go around, because you're not on speed and on target. But let's see, I could probably find an example of that. Let's see. I'll show you this funny picture here. This is an undesirable aircraft state. This was a short airfield in Washington, Concrete, Washington. House is built right off the end of it, and it's maybe 1,500 foot long or so. It's either, see, what were those flaps? Flaps come down, pulled in. It was probably a go around, and he didn't make it and stuffed it right into that house. Undesirable aircraft state. Okay, here we're talking about the kids hitting a spot here. Teach your students right out of the gate to hit the mark, hit the spot, and get your baby students to start practicing this right out of the gate. So many times I see instruction going on where instructors are allowing the students to stay halfway down the damn runway without going around. You gotta, on just a normal airport, you gotta teach them to go around if they're not gonna be down in the first third of the runway. Okay, here is Cabin Creek. We've already done the snake down the canyon bit in the Husky here, and I've already come around the corner to the point where I can no longer go around. So my go around option for this approach into Cabin Creek here was way behind me, way behind me. So I've come down a major river canyon, and now I've stuck my nose into a very short, very tight river canyon. It's got this airstrip at the end. So again, we're way past the point of going around. Gonna pick up this deer trail, literally a backcountry skiing kind of situation. Pick up this deer trail here on the left. And the spot that I'm aiming for is up there in the upper right corner of the windscreen. And as we come on in here, you can start to see, yeah, there's the landing spot. See the high terrain above there? There's simply no go around option. Maybe 1,500 feet, but it's uphill. It's a nice uphill pitch to it. It's going to catch you going uphill. Talk to that here in a minute. There's the windsock. Just roll it right on there. With tons of runway to spare, there's a big group of kids there. I'm thinking, oh, okay, you must be waiting for the 206 to come pick you up out of here. Idaho, they do all this backcountry flying and shuttling backpackers and fishermen and that sort of thing in and out of here. And I no sooner turned the airplane around, and here comes a gal in a Kodiak, a big single engine turboprop Kodiak, gets in there and picks all those kids up. So it's no problem for a professionally trained backcountry pilot. What was I going to say earlier about that? Oh, uphill. Backcountry airports are generally considered, when you're talking on the radio, communicating to each other. First off, everybody's on the same frequency, 122.9, and through the whole area. It's called what is it? Backcountry radio. And you give your description as to where you're at geographically and whether you're heading upstream or downstream. And your landings and your takeoffs are generally land upstream or land uphill, and generally always take off downhill, take off downstream. Now, this is where that wind comes into effect. About to get there before 11, because pretty soon the winds are going to be blowing the wrong direction for one of those operations. You're landing one way and taking off the opposite direction. So it's considered a one-way airstream. So you may be required to have to land with a tailwind. That could be, well, what are your limits going to be for that? Are you going to go for a 5-knot tailwind? Usually 10 knots is kind of an industry standard. 10-knot tailwind component. What about taking off? Are you going to take off with that tailwind component? And how's that going to affect you going downrange for the obstacles ahead? So again, get done early. Get your flying done early. This is the Flying Bee Ranch on the Salmon River. So the 206, this approach, I got to fly way down behind this mountain. Then I'm going to pop out of this mountain here and then drop down to the river. And okay, now I can just start to see the runway. Kellen's standing here filming me just above the runway. Got down the grass bed. You get to the spot to where, okay, now we're stabilized, on speed, on glide path, fully configured. Go around. It is an option here, but it's ugly. It's ugly as hell. You're just going down a very tight river canyon, and you'll see it after we touch down here. So this is landing going downstream. So this is one of those unusual cases. Going downstream, but the field here is pretty level. Roll it on there, and that's probably a good 1,500 feet of dirt and grass runway there at the Flying Bee Ranch, the super popular destination, Flying Ranch destination. But look at the terrain ahead. The go-around options are it's just ugly. And it's often easier to work this runway the other direction and land the opposite direction, landing upstream. That's the more traditional way of doing it. But the Flying Bee, you've got the option of going either way. So you need that local knowledge. Where do you get that local knowledge? You're going to have to study them, get the local knowledge from the local people. One of the great training aids nowadays available to us is a video game, Microsoft 2020, the flying thing, the flying video, the flying simulator game. MS 2020 and the new version very accurately replicates this terrain. So if you go out there in the middle of winter or at home during the middle of winter board, practice flying these approaches into these airports on the MS 2020 game, and you will memorize the terrain, but you need to have memorized before you go diving into there in the first place. Now, I don't know if we're going to have enough time to get into all these case studies here, but okay, here's a typical departure out of, I missed, the camera failed for the arrival, but this is Lower Loon Lake, I believe again on the Salmon River. But just to give you an idea of how hemmed in you are with this terrain, how tight this terrain is. So you got plenty of room to take off. That's not a problem. It's the rest of the terrain. So you hang right here and we're going downstream, heading downstream, but you're stuck in the bottom of this canyon and you got to climb your way out. You're not turning around in this canyon for a long time until you get well downrange. So your approach is just the opposite. It's you gotta work your way down the canyon, way down the canyon. You cannot see your landing destination. This is where you gotta have the terrain memorized. So you work your way down range of the canyon, find a wide spot in the canyon to turn around in, and then work your way up the canyon till which time that you can see the runway. So one of the most critical instruments you have is your altimeter right there. You know what the elevation of the airport is. You're hoping you got the right pressure altitude in there. And even though you can't see the airport, you know the elevation of the airport that you're heading to. And so you're judging that descent to make sure that you're not showing up at that airport with what you can see it, the visual part of the approach, too high. This was the case where I dicked around too long. I was gonna go back to the root ranch where everybody was camped out. Now it's, oh no, I had to go get gas. I'm low on fuel. Let's pop out, go get some gas, Hamilton, Montana or something. Now it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon and I want to go back to the root ranch, camp out, get on the radio, look at the windsocks. It's too windy. I'm not going to do it. So I got to divert to another airfield that's bigger, wider, easier, more manageable with the winds. Go land and hang out and fart around there all afternoon until the evening when things calm down. I'll be back when the winds settle down. .45 wrench. We're just going to rip through these examples here. This is a new place in the corner of Idaho next to the Nevada border. So it's in this desert mesa type country on the Oahe River. So it's down in the Oahe River Canyon. So before you go diving into one of these places, you've done your training, you've done your practice on the simulator, you've got all the local knowledge. If you can, you're going to overfly the strip a couple times and get all that lay of the land back into your head and plot out a course on the ground of how I'm going to attack this. How am I going to get down in here where I can't see the runway? And you're going to go from rock to tree limbs to figure out your path into here. So on this one, and this is kind of following other people's videos, we're going to dive off of this mesa here, a left down this canyon, come to a rock wall, hang another sharp left, and then there's a beautiful 2,000-foot grass strip waiting for you. Pull up the volume on this, but Kellen and I are working together as a team, calling out airspeeds and altitudes. So I've got my airspeed stabilized where I want it. I got the configuration stabilized where I want it. But we're coming up to this rock wall right here, and I want to be on my altitude as well because I can't see the airport. Got to turn this corner, keep that speed down to a minimum, and then boom, there's your airport. All right, here's the grass strip right there. No problem, got it made. And we do have a go-around option, but you still got to clear that other cliff on the other side. And that's about 200 or 300 feet tall. If you sashayed to the right, you got to build yourself some extra room. So this is the 45 ranch on the Oahe River. And once you get down there, it's a beautiful manicured green grass strip. Did you see that PC-12 there? That was a Hades PC-12. That knucklehead, he decided to do the right base entry into there. And there's a famous video out there on Facebook of him hooking it in on the right base entry. And that was a totally hard way getting in there. And spent more time and attention getting the local details. He would have known that the left base entry was much easier. Okay. Let me see. So talk about that Johnson Creek one. Talk about that. Okay. Yes. Here's a good lesson for everybody. Don't hang it on the prop. All right. Sometimes we do these stole contests. I can't stand it, and it's my standard briefing. Not hanging on the prop. I want you on speed. I want you, on a little bit behind the power curve, but I don't want you hanging on the damn prop so far behind the power curve that happens to you. That's just a tip stall. It's just stalling the aircraft right there by coming in too slow, too far behind the power curve. All right, speaking of that, gusts kill you. So there you are on your minimum speed. Maybe you're hanging it up, maybe you're behind the power curve, not quite hanging on the prop yet, but you're relying on your power to maintain your speed. You know what I mean when I say behind the power curve? But I got a concept of that. But those winds, the temperature, or the time of day thing again, before 11 a.m., the winds start piping up and now they're gusting a little bit. What is a wind gust? It is a decreasing headwind shear. So you've got your airspeed nailed, but you're within 5 or 10, 1.2 BSO, you're within 5 or 10 knots of your stall speed, and then you get that 10 knot gust, or that 10 knots of wind goes away, back here in the stall. There, the aircraft cannot react quick enough to the gusty winds, and the gusts will get you. And I don't know if that was the case in this particular situation, but it was hanging it too close to the edge. Don't fly that close to the edge. Stable. Let's see. All right, my good friend, well, a friend of a friend. This was a classic case. Where is the terribly tragic stall spin accident on takeoff in an Aviat Husky just like mine, Yellow Pine, a couple years ago. Just spun it right into the creek. He was taking off early in the morning. He was doing the right thing with the weather. He had the right aircraft, Aviat Husky, but he didn't respect the loading of the aircraft and his own personal limitations. This is the final report. He was a brand new pilot. Where's it at? He's got about 160 hours of total flying time. And he's got this hot new Husky here. And 38 years old, 170 hours, which 160 were in the Husky. Low time guy, but a lot of time in the Husky. But he loads that thing up with a cargo pod, what he had with himself and his buddy, a bunch of camping gear, and a dog. So he ended up well over 200 pounds over gross weight, going into and out of Johnson Creek. And it's a pretty normal, easy takeoff out of there. Now, that last butt hook turn, I don't know if that was a result of the stall spin, or was he trying to horse it around and get his turn going the opposite direction of home, much too soon. And that's what got him into the stall spin accident. You've got plenty of room to go down canyon. In fact, Johnson Creek, that creek right there goes over to the main river, and that river goes all the way to the Pacific Ocean. So theoretically, if you clear the trees at the end of the runway, you could go all the way to the freaking ocean without climbing another foot, theoretically. Horse it around, stall and spin it in, low time pilot, overloaded aircraft. All right, is this, let's see. All right, let's talk about this one. Some of you folks may know this guy. Who's the guy that just lost his life recently in the RV-7 at Bryan Field, Montana, out of Carson City, Nevada. Well-known, great, older pilot, former Navy guy, takes his RV-7A up to Bryan Field. It's one of the hazards I got with doing the channel. I went to Oshkosh, got that carbon cub, and buried it out there, and had a great time, great adventure. Stopped at Bryan Field and made a video extolling the virtues of this backcountry airport in Montana. And within 2 months of that video, there's 2 fatal crashes up there. So I took that video down. It's just like that. Am I influencing the wrong people to go up there? The first crash was a guy in a Grumman Traveler, 150 horse Grumman Traveler. Remember those? A lot of power. the wrong aircraft, did not respect the aircraft that he was taken into. Two guys, they got in there, they hung around the campfire all night, and then the next day they unloaded all their camping gear. Next day, the morning, early enough in the morning, they go to take off, and they do not have the performance to get off the ground. Hit the trees off the end of the runway. Lack of performance out of that aircraft. In this RV-7A, it's not really a backcountry aircraft, but it's a more powerful aircraft, and took the wheel pants off. And he'd been up to Johnson Creek, and then he's gonna go try out Ryan Field. And I think he was in the process of getting some backcountry experience while he was doing this. And he hits a tree on a go around. He does not maintain his center line on a go around. So some of that basic private pilot training as a student still applies in the backcountry. Stay on the center line. How do you stay on the center line when there's no, it's just green patch, but you're in this tunnel of trees, 150-foot trees on either side of you. You've got to stay in the middle of those trees. You cannot be allowed to drift one way or another on a go around. He clipped a great big old tree just off to the right side of the runway. These trees were very close to it. And this preliminary report, I heard from the daughter of this pilot, and she mentioned this, and I think this is a distraction. There's something distracting the pilot. And in this case, he'd gone around it once, maybe twice, and now his oil temperature started to get up. So I think he's starting to worry about his airplane movement, his oil temperature. Was that enough to distract him to drift off into that tree? I don't know. He did. And that was fatal results. There was one other incident that happened here recently. It's not that one, but it's similar to it. Burning Man just wrapped up here a couple of weeks ago, and they got the airport at Burning Man, and then this guy from the East Coast flew his Piper, I think it was a Piper PA-28, all the way out here at Burning Man. Took off, started heading back home, and he gets out to Salt Lake City. And then he takes off out of Salt Lake City and goes up the most boxiest canyon there is in the Wasatch Mountains, east of Salt Lake City, in the middle of the afternoon with two people in gear in this Piper Cherokee, and gets boxed into the boxed-in canyon and attempts to turn around and does not make it out of the canyon. And he boxes himself into that canyon at a pretty low altitude. He's going into the canyon below the tops of the mountains, just after leaving Salt Lake. And so I think that's just a plain lack of any experience in flying in mountainous terrain, because he's from the East Coast, he's from the flatland country, and why he chose to go that way with ForeFlight and these sort of tools these days, there's no excuse for going, well, I shouldn't say that. I've done that. I have turned up the wrong canyon before. And you know how I turned up the wrong canyon before? Dicking around with cameras in the air. It'd be a huge distraction. Trying to turn the stupid camera on, and I flew right past my turnoff and picked up the next canyon and started working my way up that one. And of course, there's a ceiling up the top of the mountains, and I realized, ooh, that's the wrong canyon. I missed my turn. Well, I looked at it closely, and I was able to pop right out of the saddle to get back on course and correct it. One little distraction up there in the backcountry might be all it takes to throw you off your game, get you into a very dangerous situation very quickly. So those are some of the examples I've got for you for backcountry flying. Spot landings, you got to be able to land on the spot. You got to have stabilized approaches, consistently stabilized approaches. Young pilots, young instructors, get your students into making good stabilized approaches right off the bat. A good landing always starts with that good approach. Don't let them go sailing halfway down the runway. If they're not down by a third of the runway, or you figured out a spot on the runway, if you're down by then, I want you going around. I want you hitting your mark more accurately. And if you could force them to do that at a very young part of their training, They don't know any different. They'll pick right up on it. They will rise to the challenge if you challenge them from the beginning of their training. Go rounds are not always an option in the backcountry. You have to figure out where is going to be your decision point, where you're going to do, where's the last point where you're going to go around from. We talked about uphill and downhill runways, upstream, downstream. We talked about being stuck with a tailwind, possibly on landing or on takeoff. And getting down early. Got to respect the weather. Even if it's a beautiful day out there, you got to be down by 11 or 12 o'clock in the day. Those winds are just too damn squirrely in that rugged terrain.
Juan, I got a question
Okay.
on Zoom, and I hope I'm gonna do Vladimir justice in asking this question. So he said, slope like smaller radius turns, would that be helpful when we're trying to make that 180 degree turn to avoid being boxed in?
Yes. Yes, canyon speeds. I call it canyon speeds. Now, when I come into downwind at the airport now, there's a lot of things that tick me off. One of the things is people smoking into the downwind at the airport. Serious pilots. Slow down, match the speed of the other traffic. And then so I'll get downwind, I'll say, I'm going to slow down, canyon speeds. I want to be down to canyon speed now. So if you're getting boxed in, you're running out of performance. You don't have a lot of extra performance. You do not need to slow down because you're already naturally slowed down by the terrain. But you got to maintain that best performance. I would recommend the rate of climb speed or the best angle of climb speed, one of those two speeds at a minimum, full power to make that turn and minimize fuel. Your turn radius will naturally be reduced because you will be at those speeds. Do not get below those speeds when you're trying to get out of a boxed-in situation. You may need to do something like Shobit. What Shobit did may not have the terrain to do that, but you may need to lower the nose, give up some altitude for some airspeed in order to not stall. When I'm doing those turns in the canyon to get turned around, to get headed back in the direction I want, I'm literally just pitching it nose down. I'm allowing the speed to build up, but I'm keeping the turn. I'm using the verticals, we used to say in the T-37, coming off the perch and down like this to turn the aircraft around. I'm not going around in a big flat level turn like that. I'm using the vertical. Besides, I need to get down to the altitude that I'm looking for anyways. Any other questions out there?
I'm curious.
Mhm.
Straight in, is that never a thing?
It can be. It can be an option, but it's generally frowned upon, especially at busy backcountry airports like Johnson Creek. That brings up a whole point here. Thanks. Do your homework. Do the local procedure. Johnson Creek has a very well-established procedure. They want you to fly the procedure. You got to join these different organizations to find those procedures, and those procedures will discuss the fact that they don't like to see straight-in approaches. If the guy bombing in on the long straight-in approach is going to get cut off by the guy doing the normal procedure of the left base entry. And the go-around options are tight. 3 different organizations I want to recommend. This is the RAF, the Recreational Aviation Foundation. These guys are, how many guys are old dirt bike riders that are used to riding trails and familiar with getting booted off of trails and the back? You can't get access to backcountry anymore on motorized vehicles. Same problem in airplanes. We're under constant assault, losing access to backcountry airstrips. So these organizations help allow us to keep our presence in the backcountry and allow us to keep the right to continue to access these airports. They do it many different ways. The RAF does a lot of lobbying with Congress and local officials to make that happen. And then you just join them with $100 donation or any dollar donation, and you get this airfield guide and in this airfield guide here, you start getting all the local information on a particular airport and their various procedures, especially the Ryan Field in Montana. One of the more, those real popular airfields are going to have some very specific procedures that you need to adhere to. And in the RF, you need to come in here, log in, sign in with your email and tell them that you've reviewed the procedure before going in there. Because some of these airstrips are marked as R on the map, restricted. So in order to get the permission to land at the restricted airport, you gotta have signed the agreement that you have read the procedures for getting in and out of here. Recreational Aviation Foundation. The Idaho Aviation Association, one of the older groups, been around for years. These are the guys that keep the airports and airstrips going in Idaho. Join them, and they've got all the information as well on the airstrips. And like the old dirt bike trail riding, you're going to be drafted right away into fixing the trails or fixing the runways. And that's a good, fun way to enjoy the whole thing, is to get involved with helping to rehabilitate some of these backcountry airstrips. Idaho Aviation Association. And then a relatively new one, the Jim Richmond Backcountry Aviation Foundation. These guys are doing a little different model where they are basically buying up these properties or having these properties donated to them, and then they are keeping them open as backcountry airfields. That 45 Ranch is an example. A beautiful 1,000-acre ranch worth a couple $1 million out in the middle of nowhere, and they either get it donated to them or they buy it with donations and preserve it as not only just an airstrip, but as a piece of American history, but keeping the whole ranch facility intact as best they can. Keep it operational. And they're picking up a couple other very interesting properties there. And it's, again, just a donation, or it's very little to join these organizations for less than a cost of $100 hamburger flight. So these are some of the good organizations that are out there preserving your right to backcountry flying, and where you can get this information to how to properly get in and out of these places. But first, you're going to need to find a backcountry instructor, get some proper backcountry instruction first before venturing out. You can start right now with your spot landings and your slow flight, stalls and falls. You should be out there stalling and falling on every local proficiency flight and just be super comfortable with it. Slow flying that thing, falling leaf maneuver. I want you to be able to just pull that power back and get it into the stall and just hold it there and prevent it from spinning by using the rudder. Just allow it to fall just like that. And just get very proficient at doing this sort of exercise. They don't practice anymore, right? That's not on your check, right? Is it? Yeah.
So when we see all these YouTube videos of accidents, are there truly more accidents or just
No, it's the exposure in the company. Overall, we still got a debate going on with who's the new president of AOPA. Is the rate leveling off or still decreasing? The data is always lagging. We never have the last 2 years of data in concrete, so we don't know if it's still coming down. But overall, the trend has been for a general decrease in the overall accident rate.
You know, I just got a question on the 6, which is what home class.
Yeah, that thing's got those big romper room tires on it, and you land those romper room tires at anything faster than the slowest speed you can get. It just feels like it's ripping and tearing the gear off. So, especially on asphalt. So generally on landing in the 206, I will go to full 40 degrees of flaps and do the full spell landing, get it to land as slow as possible. Takeoffs are always with 10 degrees of flaps. Again, try to get those tires off as quick as possible. For a field takeoff, yeah, get off the ground, but then accelerate in ground effect. Don't hang it on the prop. Don't go for a PX climb right away. accelerate and ground effect and get a reasonable speed and then get your climb out. So yeah, 206 full flaps all the time, and it's got that new IO 550 Gammy injectors, lean and peak. It works. It's not just a myth anymore, thanks to the technology.
Let's get those questions thinking, but first, let's get another round of applause for Juan. A lot of stuff we heard, even if we're not venturing into the backcountry, I feel like can transfer over to your day-to-day flying. So, Juan, while you guys are thinking of those questions on Zoom as well, are there any particular maybe paved airports or things around this area that you would recommend as like a starting
I
point?
would just start at your hometown airport, draw a line or pick a point on that airport and get together with your friends, grab 4 cones, mark out 100 feet, and then every 25 feet and practice your spot landings right there. This Sierra Valley right here is a good introduction. You don't want to be messing around the Sierra Valley in the afternoon and the winds over there, but airports like Sierraville, for example, is a nice paved backcountry sort of primer. Quincy Airport, but to get in and out of Quincy, okay, go to Morning Thunder Cafe, give you a little bit of an idea of what it's like to fly over a mountain on downwind that might block your view of the runway for a little bit of time. Those are a couple of classic local examples, and there's plenty more. I just think of them right in the local area.
Any other questions from folks in the audience here or anyone on Zoom? All right, well, Juan, before you go, I want to give you this.
How many of these hats am I gonna
This
get?
is I stayed at Truckee Airport. That's a big guy. And a gift card to our local Red Truck Cafe.
Oh, come back.
Come back. Get them out of here before it's dark. So Juan, thanks again for coming out, and everyone that's on Zoom and everyone here as well. We'll see you at the next event. Good night.
Yeah, I mean,